McLaren. It's a name steeped in Formula 1 history. 182 race wins, 8 Constructors' Championships, and 12 Drivers' Championships. Through the 1980s, they embarked upon one of the most dominant eras in Formula 1 history, providing championships for Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost. They built cars that helped Mika Hakkinen and Lewis Hamilton defeat the mighty Ferrari, but since Hamilton's triumph, it's been difficult. A failed partnership with Honda ended miserably in 2017, and after their star driver Fernando Alonso walked away from F1 at the end of 2018, it gave McLaren a chance to promote one of their young stars. 19-year-old Lando Norris finished runner-up in the 2018 F2 series, and this year embarks on the start of his Formula 1 journey. Will McLaren provide him with a capable car? Will Lando keep pace with his experienced teammate Carlos Sainz? Let's find out. What's up guys, and welcome back to another season of 2019 F1 modded career mode for the F1 2018 game here on my channel. If you're glad to see another series of this, do make sure to smash a like. And as I already mentioned, we are going to be doing this series as Lando Norris, which should be pretty good fun at driving in the McLaren. And yeah, if you missed Series 1, I drove as Renault, as myself, but thought I would mix it up and do it as a driver this time round. So there, yes, there you can see, we're driving as Lando Norris. All the races are going to be 50% distance. I'll leave a link to all the mods down below that I've installed. And if you're on PC, you can do exactly the same on your game as well. And the videos for this series, hopefully, will be coming out every weekday until the series ends. But without further ado now, let's get in to the first qualifying session of the season. So here we are then, the first competitive lap of the season in our McLaren. And to be honest, I wasn't really sure what to expect in terms of pace from this car, where exactly we'd pan out compared to the rest of the field. You can see Kimi Raikkonen currently quickest in the session in his Alfa Romeo, and we came across the line half a second slower than Kimi. And as we come now to 15 seconds before the end of qualifying, that left us all the way down in P18. And considering Australia isn't usually a terrible track for myself, I was pretty shocked by that. But anyway, we come through for our final lap of qualifying. We've burnt off a lot of the fuel. We've slapped on a fresh set of rubber, and you can see we're already quicker than our first time lap. Braking quite late into turn 3 and getting up to 0.2 of a second quicker as we come towards the end of the first sector now, sweeping there through turn 5. And under the trees, very difficult to pick the braking zone into turn 6. Trying not to get too much understeer there, but we're 3.5 tenths up on our previous best lap. Looking a hell of a lot better as we're getting some experience in this car. Braking as late as possible now into the turn 9 and 10 chicane for propelling us on to the curved back straight, I guess you can say, as we come down towards the end of Sector 2 with 4 tenths up on our previous best time before going through the very high speed chicane of turn 11 and 12 and getting on to the DRS zone before braking now into this very technical final sector, which is a series of a few 90-degree left and right-handers as well as a hairpin. We go through the second right-hander now for braking into the left-hand hairpin, the penultimate corner on the circuit. It hasn't been a brilliant final sector. We haven't really taken a lot of risks, which is where we've been going wrong, but we do get a brilliant exit off the final corner, much better than our previous best lap, and we come across the line. It's an improvement by half a second, but it is still only P15. Now, we've had the car set up mainly for the race, so hopefully we can do better then. But a quick run through the full grid for the Australian Grand Prix, the first race of the season. It's Vettel from Hamilton at the front, with Valtteri Bottas in P3 ahead of Max Verstappen, who put in a good lap for the Red Bull team, ahead of his teammate Pierre Gasly, with Charles Leclerc 6th in his first qualifying for Ferrari. Then we've got Daniel Ricciardo, who's the best of the rest, ahead of Kevin Magnussen, with their teammates Grosjean and Hülkenberg rounding out the top 10. Sergio Perez, the first of the drivers, with a free tyre choice, with our teammate Carlos Sainz starting directly in front of us on the grid in P13. So we'll take a good look at his gearbox into the first corner. And then, unsurprisingly, we've got the two Williams rounding out the grid. It's race day here in Melbourne and we are ready for the opening round of this modded career mode series. Drop a like down below if you're looking forward to it. And before we get into the race itself, let's have a look at the race strategy. So it should be staying dry for this Grand Prix, which means it's a one-stopper, and we're actually going to start on the softest compound, the ultra-soft tyres, in this Grand Prix. Of course, we do have the option of starting on whatever compound we want. But because we're so low down after qualifying, I thought, you know what, let's go on those ultra softs and see what we can do. And as we go into the formation lap now, before the start of this Grand Prix, you can see that everybody else that's qualified outside the top 10 has opted for the super soft tyres to start this Grand Prix. So we are going for the softest compound available, make up those positions, and hopefully it will come to fruition. Points has got to be the target for this race, as it always should be, but we've got a lot of ground to make up. Can we do it in the Grand Prix? As we go to 5 red lights and away we go here at Albert Park. It's been a reasonable start for us, as you'd expect, on the softest compound of tyre. Lance Stroll going down the inside of our teammate into turn 1. Carlos Sainz, but he's very tentative on the brakes, and Sainz then sweeps back past him in turn 2. We settle behind the Racing Point driver. We've been forced to the outside now, and we're going to be sandwiched between Stroll and Sainz by the looks of it. But no, Sainz very, very tentative on the brakes into turn 3, and we go down the inside of our teammate in the first sector, and we've already made up a position, which is good, but it is at the expense of our teammates, as the two Racing Point cars are now side by side towards the end of the first sector. Stroll going onto the grass there, as it looks as if Sainz has clipped us from behind and lost a little bit of his end plate. So disaster in the first sector of the first Grand Prix. We've made contact with our teammate, although I don't think we could really take any responsibility for that. We didn't brake earlier or anything. I think Sainz just really didn't have his wits about him there, as Sainz is actually going to now try and go down our inside. So we're going to leave him the room, but he chooses not to go past us as we go through this fast chicane at turn 11 and 12. Still eyeing up those two Racing Point cars. Stroll going pretty slowly now as we come towards turn 13. Can we go down his inside? No, we think better of it, although he's tried to gone past Perez there, and that has compromised his exit off the corner. And as we go through turn 14, we get past the Canadian and we are up into P13. So a reasonably successful first lap, where we've gained 2 positions as Sebastian Vettel leads the pack over the line to finish the first of 29 laps in this Grand Prix. And we are now closing up on Sergio Perez as we head towards turn 1, but not close enough to make a move as of yet. Of course, DRS not active until lap 3 of the Grand Prix, but of course you already knew that, probably. Anyway, we go towards turn 3 now, nowhere near close enough to get past Perez, and very difficult to overtake without DRS around this circuit. But now we're going to take a look at the race replay of the start of this Grand Prix from the front of the pack. So Sebastian Vettel, who started on pole, had a very easy run down into turn 1, and Lewis Hamilton got very, very bogged down on the start, as he tends to do at the Australian Grand Prix in real life. Over the years, he's just done that. And you can see he was battling heavily with his teammate Valtteri Bottas through the first sector, which allowed the two Red Bulls to be very, very close behind. But Hamilton just about holding P2. But you can see the gap that Sebastian Vettel has already got at the front. Probably a good couple of seconds, with Max Verstappen in behind the two Mercedes in P4. And then behind Pierre Gasly is Daniel Ricciardo, who's managed to get ahead of Charles Leclerc into P6 in this Grand Prix, which is interesting to say the least. But now we're going to go back on board with ourselves at the midway point of lap 3, and we are actually closing in on Sergio Perez. So Lance Stroll is behind us, but not within DRS range, but we are within DRS range of his teammate Sergio Perez, and the Mexican is very much under threat from ourselves, but not close enough. It's a very, very difficult DRS zone to overtake, is the run down to turn 13. And it's mainly just about trying to set yourself up for an overtake on the main straight, or at least that's what I see it as. And we really are close to Perez here. Quite easy to follow him through the final sector, which certainly wasn't the case back on F1 2017, I seem to remember, Very turbulent going through that final corner. But we are very, very close to Perez now, who sort of pulls to the inside to try and defend from us into turn 1, which has compromised his exit. Where we've tried to get as good exit as possible, but he's going to force us all the way around the outside. Are we going to be able to pull this overtake off into turn 3? What a move it would be. We're going to be side by side with Perez, and we're going to have the inside line into turn 4, but he's just going to sort of push us to the inside, and we get a bit of wheel spin, which bogs us down. But what a little battle that was at the start of lap 4 on this Grand Prix. And this McLaren car looking very, very equally matched with that Racing Point car. So, yeah, very, very interesting to see early on in this Grand Prix. And as we skip onto lap 5, you can see that Perez has closed up to a couple of cars up ahead. So, it's going to be quite a battle, I think. And it is Romain Grosjean in that black and gold, I was trying to think of what colour it was then, the black and gold Haas car, who is leading this mini train with Kimi Raikkonen ahead of Sergio Perez, and this is all battling for the final point in P10 in this Grand Prix. So we're still following Sergio Perez, who now has the DRS of that Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult maybe to pass him here on lap 6 of the Grand Prix, but we're going to try our utmost, and hopefully we could catch Sergio Perez unawares here, because he's, well, we've just caught him napping. We've gone down the inside. Perez puts up absolutely no defence. When he didn't have DRS, he was defending all over the place, but we will take that up into P12. I don't really know what Perez was doing there, but I will take it. I will take it. And we're now within a second of Kimi Raikkonen. The goal has got to be to keep that so that we get the DRS off Raikkonen and hopefully prevent Sergio Perez from overtaking us. But now as we go into the chicane at turn 9 and 10, we're just about sticking with Raikkonen, but not a great exit for ourselves, and that has allowed Perez to get up close to us. So even though he is on the harder compound of tyres, he got much better traction off turn 10. Just not a good corner for us by the looks of it, because we didn't do any overtaking on Perez there, but he has mugged us straight away as soon as he's got the opportunity, and of course using the DRS to his full effect at the end of lap 6. But we're still pretty close to him, and hopefully we can make another move on him into the first couple of corners. So following him nicely through the final few corners, this is definitely where our McLaren is at its fastest, and it's not looking too terrible in a straight line either. Considering Perez is in a Mercedes powered car and we're in a Renault powered car, this McLaren not looking too bad whatsoever. Of course, one thing that Lando Norris has remarked in the real life season is that McLaren are probably strongest on the straights, and it's very much coming to fruition here, because we've gone back down the inside of Sergio Perez at turn 3, releasing the brake to cut him off on the exit of the corner. Don't take any more driving advice from me, but that was a decent overtake from ourselves. But as we cut later on into lap 7, we're being re-overtaken by Perez into turn 13. Definitely our weakest part of the circuit, that high-speed chicane of turn 11 and 12. The McLaren just doesn't really seem to have a lot of downforce through there, which is disappointing. But in these medium-speed corners, in the final sector, we're doing just fine. And we've closed back up to Perez, and we may even be able to get him before the first turn this time. We're going to be side by side running into the first corner. Can we hang it all the way around the outside? Yes, we can, just about, by the looks of it. Although Perez has got a good exit off turn 2, but we should be able to slip down his inside into turn 3, considering we have the DRS, and indeed we do. Pretty much a carbon copy of what we did to him on lap 7. But we're now being pursued by his teammate Lance Stroll behind, who's now very, very close to this pack, and we very much lost track with Raikkonen, who's now 4 seconds down the road. So all that battling that we've been doing with Perez, we've pretty much cost ourselves a chance at getting close to Kimi Raikkonen. Now let's take a look at whether Sergio Perez can get near to us at turn 11 and 12. No, this time we actually managed to get a half decent exit, although he is closing on us towards this chicane now. Is he going to be able to get ahead? And then we go a little bit defensive into that corner and finally get an okay-ish exit off. Perez is going to have the DRS though. We force him all the way around the outside. Surely he's not going to be able to get past us there. And no, we cut him off. And that could be vital that we've kept ahead of him there. Because if we can stay ahead of him at the start of lap 9, which indeed we did manage to do, we weren't really under threat as we actually come towards the end of lap 9, which is the cue for our first pit stop, and hopefully only pit stop of the afternoon. So Romain Grosjean is the car ahead of us that has also pitted, probably about 3 or 4 seconds up the road from us in real time. He was battling with Kimi Raikkonen. So we fit the soft tyres, which is the hardest compound. So in the real life season, 2019 season, would be called the hard compound, but it's soft, so let's just call it soft. And we emerge from the pit lane behind Romain Grosjean, of course, and Grosjean is behind our teammate Carlos Sainz by the looks of it. Sainz is yet to pit, and we get a lot of understeer through that first corner, so struggling to get these tyres up to temperature, because it is an overcast day up ahead, up above even, and we found ourselves in P20 behind the Williams cars. But the Williams are following our teammates, Carlos Sainz, and he is now holding up Romain Grosjean, which could be very, very good for ourselves, but they are going to go side by side through turns 11 and 12. It's going to be very, very tight between the two of them by the looks of it, but I think Grosjean has just got ahead. Yes, he has, and now Sainz is going to be under pressure from the two Williams cars behind him, and they're going to be jostling for position into turn 13, and that has given us a perfect opportunity to close up to these Williams cars, which should give us DRS at the start of lap 11 of this Grand Prix, and we're actually going to put it down the inside of George Russell before we've even reached the DRS zone. Don't mind if I do. Still get the DRS and also made up a position, as Sainz gets an awful, awful exit off the final corner, and despite him having DRS, we've almost overtaken him into the first turn, although Sainz has taken a look at Kubica as well. Sainz has locked up into the first corner, and surely we're going to be able to get Sainz into turn 3 now, unless he is going to go for a move on Kubica, which he does. We don't want to, of course, crash into our teammates, or indeed anyone, really, in this Grand Prix. So we're just going to sort of watch from a distance as Sainz and Kubica go at it, but Kubica makes a mistake. We pounce on that before we've made it to turn 5, and we are up into P18, although we have lost a lot of time battling there. We're still, obviously, of course, behind Carlos Sainz. God knows where Romain Grosjean has got to. He is well up the road. And an opportunity, possibly, that we had to get close to Romain Grosjean has completely vanished. But we're still closing up to our teammate, Sainz. And hopefully, we can get ahead of him before too long, because that is very much going to hold us up if we don't. I'd imagine he'll be due in the pits in maybe a lap's time. I think that's when the pit window opens for the super soft runners. And we're just going to have to sit behind him for a little bit longer. We just can't get a good purchase off turns 11 and 12. And we were actually getting closer to him through the parts of the circuit where you supposedly can't overtake. But we're surely going to be close enough now through the final turn to overtake Sainz, who goes horribly wide through the final corner, almost getting on the grass, which allows us to slip down his inside and into P17 in this Grand Prix. And a nice bit of braking there into turn 1. No danger whatsoever. And we're going to get the DRS for good measure as well. And we are just far enough ahead of Carlos Sainz so that he can't counter us with that slipstream into turn 3. So going towards the end of lap 12 now. And indeed, our teammate is into the pits, as are a few other drivers, which has promoted us into P15. But all of that battling has left us back behind Sergio Perez. We just can't shake him off. We just cannot shake him off in this Grand Prix. It's a little bit like the real-life Australian Grand Prix where Norris got caught out in traffic. So that's a bit disappointing. But going backwards a bit towards the end of lap 12, we're now going to take a look at Kimi Raikkonen, who is another one of the drivers that we could be battling. And he is holding up some of the front runners currently who have pitted for the first time. One of which is Lewis Hamilton, who sits in a net P2 in this Grand Prix, and he gets past Kimi Raikkonen, who is very much struggling on his tyres. So hopefully, Kimi can do a little bit of battling before he comes into the pit lane, because that would really favour us, and hopefully we can get close to him, even though we're behind Perez. But I'd like to think that we're not too far off scoring points in this Grand Prix, and sure enough, Raikkonen is really giving a good battle to Valtteri Bottas on lap 13 of this Grand Prix. And as Bottas comes towards the end of the first sector, he's locked up and has relinquished 2 positions to both of the Red Bulls. And he's still behind Kimi Raikkonen. A terrible couple of corners for Valtteri Bottas. But a great couple of corners if you're a Red Bull driver. And I believe that is Charles Leclerc, not too far behind Bottas either. As for now, we've got one of the Red Bulls trying to go around the outside and then down the inside of the Alfa Romeo. And I believe that was Pierre Gasly. So he's obviously got ahead of Max Verstappen, something we haven't seen any of in the real-life season. Meanwhile, Verstappen is still stuck behind Raikkonen. This is really throwing a cat amongst the pigeons in the order at the front here. And meanwhile, we've got Bottas and Leclerc battling. Leclerc has gone down the inside of Bottas. So Bottas has lost 3 positions in the space of 1 lap. And there we can see Kimi Raikkonen coming into the pit lane at the end of lap 13. So hopefully we can be pretty close to him by the time he comes out of the pits. But we're just going to take a little bit of a look at this battle now for P4 in the Grand Prix, I believe. So we've got Sebastian Vettel leading the way from Hamilton and Gasly. And this is the battle for 4th, led by Max Verstappen. Then we've got in P5, Charles Leclerc, followed by the real-life Australian Grand Prix race winner, Valtteri Bottas. So that battle will, I'm sure, go on and on. But there we can see that Sebastian Vettel is leading the way. But Hamilton has very much closed the gap compared to what it was before the pit phase. So not all over and done with as of yet. Meanwhile, we go back to ourselves in this Grand Prix on lap 14. And you can see there, Raikkonen has very much lost a lot of time in battling with the front runners. And Perez almost had an opportunity to overtake him there. So the 3 of us are within a sheet's throw of P11, if that's the phrase. I think it is. You can throw a sheet over the 3 of us. But regardless of my wordplay, terrible wordplay, we are still in with a shout of at least getting P11. So if you have a retirement, you never know what can happen in this race. But our first priority has got to be getting back ahead of Sergio Perez. And I can tell you something for certain. We're probably not going to overtake him on the run to turn 11 and 12 here, because I'm sure he'll get a much better exit than ourselves. He does, but not significantly so. So we're improving. And we're still within a chance of overtaking him before too long. So we're going to have the DRS, but I believe he will get the DRS on Kimi Raikkonen as well. So we're not going to be able to overtake him into turn 13. But it's just about putting ourselves in a good position here to try and overtake the Mexican for what feels like the 100th time in this Australian Grand Prix. But we get a good run through turn 14, and as we come into the hairpin at 15, you'd imagine we'll try and get a good exit off here and propel ourselves on to the main pit straight. So we're using our overtake ERS, of which we've got about 50% left to use. And as we go into turn 1, Perez going very, very defensive. Can we go all the way around the outside? Yes, we can. We tried that once before in the race and it didn't quite work, but this time we've pulled it off. We're up into P12. And Perez lost a lot of time to Kimi Raikkonen on that last lap, which means that we're quite a way behind him, but at least we are ahead of Perez, I say, as we're being overtaken by him, which is disappointing. But nonetheless, what can you do apart from try and re-overtake him, as we've done many, many times? We just can't shake him off, can we? But this feels like deja vu. We get a good run through this final sector, but it's just not quite enough to stay ahead of Perez. That's what we've got to try and do. Probably use a little bit of our ERS maybe in the first couple of sectors to just bolt away from Perez. And who knows? Who knows? But surely we'll be able to get ahead of him here, either into turn 1 or turn 2. So no, actually we go into no ERS deployment into turn 1, because we've got so much confidence that we can overtake him into turn 3 in this second of 3 DRS zones. Using the overtake ERS, going down the inside, he locks up, but still almost manages to stay ahead of ourselves. So we're going to be side by side through here, but we do get ahead of him into turn 4, and this is where we've really got to try and bolt now and just stop him from overtaking us for a couple of laps. So we're 3.8 behind Kimi Raikkonen at this stage with 12 laps left of the Grand Prix. So it's not looking great for us actually getting close to Raikkonen. But, of course, like I say, we've just got to look at getting ahead of Perez for the meantime before we can even think about looking ahead. But we've actually got a really good run through the first couple of sectors here, using quite a bit of our ERS deployment, which might not do as good in the long run, But as I was talking about retirements, we've got Daniel Ricciardo out of the race. So that is very, very realistic from the game. Seeing Ricciardo retire. Terrible, terrible luck for him as we go very, very deep into the yellow flag zone. And there you can see the Australian parked up at his home Grand Prix. Disappointing for him, but very, very good for us because we're now up into P11. And for a couple of laps, we've actually managed to stay ahead of Sergio Perez. Unfortunately, Raikkonen is actually pulling away from us with 10 laps left in the Grand Prix. So we have really, really got to push and just do our thing. Do our thing for these final few laps of the Grand Prix. So we're starting lap 21 and the gap is 4.4 seconds. But the gap behind is 1.8 seconds. So we're finally out of DRS range of Sergio Perez. As we take a look at the mini-map, you can see that up ahead we've got Raikkonen, who's a few seconds back from Grosjean, who's quite a way behind Nico Hülkenberg, who is also quite a way behind Kevin Magnussen. So there's not really a lot of battling going on, although we were closing in on Raikkonen with 5 laps left in the Grand Prix. So at this point, I was thinking, you know what, we've got a bit of hope. We're closing in on Raikkonen, we're getting further away from Perez. But as we go on to lap 28, you can see that we just, well, I mean, we can't see him. So with just a lap and a half to go, it's probably going to be quite difficult to overtake him. And sure enough, the gap's still 3.1 seconds, although we were really, really pushing at this stage. I was thinking, you know what, Raikkonen might make a mistake, his tyres might go off the cliff. Let's just push and push and push. And that's what happens when you continue to push, you go off the circuit. And that was pretty much it. We weren't able to overtake him after that mistake because the gap went up to 4 seconds. Which was way too much to catch in just over a lap. And then it became 4.8 seconds, and then Lewis Hamilton won the Grand Prix whilst we still had 2 sectors left to drive. So congratulations to Lewis Hamilton for taking the first 25 points of this modded career mode season. As we come through the final few corners, our tyres were absolutely shot at this stage. And we come through the final turn to take 0 points, but take 11th place in the Australian Grand Prix, the first race of the season. We gained 4 positions, which shows that our race pace is actually pretty decent. A lot to work on, but not much to work on for that man. Hamilton taking the victory. And usually, in my career mode series, it's Sebastian Vettel that is the man to beat. But today it was Lewis Hamilton, Arava celebrating that victory like only he knows how to. But there you can see Hamilton taking the victory ahead of Vettel, with Pierre Gasly taking the final podium spot, something we haven't seen any of this season so far. So well done to the 3 of them, but we have got a lot to work on in our McLaren. Of course, not being able to stay ahead of Perez pretty much ruined our race, but hopefully we can improve on that in races to come. And there you can see the full race classification. And Lewis Hamilton, I believe, took the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as well, which gave him 26 points in the opening round of the season, just like his teammate Valtteri Bottas did in the real-life Australian Grand Prix. So a very good, in fact perfect start for the reigning world champion. And ourselves, we were down in P11 with our teammate Carlos Sainz actually DNFing. He went out of the race in the latter stages, finishing behind both of the Williamses, which was quite embarrassing, it has to be said. But we finished ahead of Perez, which is, I guess, our battle for the race. And there you can see the driver's standings with Hamilton on top on 26 points. Ourselves, of course, not getting off the mark so far. And the driver's standings are exactly the same as the race results were. And then onto the constructor standings, it is Mercedes leading the way. But what a race that was, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. And I'll catch you for the next race, which will be tomorrow in Bahrain. If you've enjoyed this one, leave a like. And I'll hopefully see you tomorrow for more action. Take care. Bye-bye.